And Chris started his presentation by asking a question. What is my role in this? And I believe that the ancestors have brought us all here together tonight for a purpose. And maybe you can each ask yourself that question. What is your role in this? And as you ponder on that, I can see that Brother Swaby is getting...
Pick me first and then him.
Oh, you want to?
Yeah,
okay.
Let's move it along.
Okay.
While we're setting up.
Okay. So Brother Swaby is going to be setting up to entertain us, and in the meantime, I will pass you over to Brother Cecil, who is going to read some. Thank you.
Yeah, man, hold it there. Let's put it around behind you, man. Stay now.
Okay. Brothers and sisters, it seems to me that it's very good for us to be here because this is an important occasion. We're celebrating something that's come out of us. And I'm very pleased and proud to be in the role of doing what we call the launch speech. I'm glad that it's happening here in the Karabu Center because this was in the late 1960s and early 70s, together with the place at number 1 that we used to call the Gresham, the stomping ground of some of us in terms of community work and community organization. This is one of the places. And I am sure that some of the meetings to do with defending the Oval 4 happened in this place. Quite sure of it. Just as there was a Rockwell Park 3, and there were many more cases like that where the police jumped on and charged people wrongly. And a lot of the things that we did in those days was around that kind of legal stroke political defense of people. And this was one of the sites of organization. So it's good that we have come back here to deal with this very important product of the state assault on us of that time. Now, some dramatic things happened in this building. I remember in 1978, the African Liberation Day event was happening upstairs, and some of the sisters intervened very dramatically to complain that they had been excluded, and very assertively to make demands of a womanist and feminist nature, right upstairs. And it led into an important piece of Black African and Asian women organization, forward and onward and all of that. One of the drivers of that was that intervention that they made against our, I suppose, our male oppression of them. Started right up there. So, like I say, I'm pleased that this is the place that the launch is happening. Let me say also that the last launch speech that I made was actually on the Mona campus, and it was for the most recent Buju Banton LP, CD, album. What's it called? Reggae Got So? Anybody heard it?
Yeah.
When before the text of my speech had appeared as an article in the Jamaica Journal, Buju was already charged with whatever he's charged with by the government of the United States. It seems to me that those charges arise from two pieces of victimage. One of them, it seems to me, is that Buju is a kind of victim of his own dalliance with the white lady. It's another name for what?
Yes.
For coke, yeah? And a Rasta man really shouldn't be in that space and doing those dealings. And that makes him open to that other second victimage, because the United States government is a very ruthless institution. We know, they don't care about drugs, you know. We know that they, for years, and this is well documented, it's not just off the top of my head, we know that they went and got drugs in a deal with Nicaragua and the Nicaragua Contras, and that the way they disposed of them was in the black community in the United States of America, right? So it's not that they care about drugs, it is that if you put yourself in their way, they just might come for you. And that whole drugs thing is very dangerous, and I'm very, very sad that Buju lent himself to being tied up and possibly imprisoned. Definitely imprisoned. The question is our hope that he won't get a long prison sentence, that he won't be found guilty, because very clearly he was set up by very dangerous forces. So now, that launch speech was followed by those events involving Buju. Now this one runs no such risk, because I know that our brother is going to behave as impeccably in the future as he has in the past. No white lady not in his life. So I make this speech completely without any fear of any kinds of consequence. There's no danger of embarrassment. Now, it is, as I say, with real pleasure that I offer these further remarks in relation to the book. Our sister didn't give you the whole title. It's Black for a Cause, Not Just Because, The Case of the Oval Four and the Story of Black Power in 1970s Britain. That is the title and the full subtitle. And I say that the book represents a triumph and an achievement on the part of our brother, and speaking from and coming out of our community, it represents a triumph and achievement of the whole community. That is certainly what I feel. It is at once a physical and emotional triumph. It's also an intellectual triumph, and it's also a triumph of a political kind. And all of those three things, it seems to me, matter. Now, why is it a physical triumph? Brother Chris is with us in circumstances when either he may long have joined the ancestors, or may be still with us, but unable to perform, right? Why do I say that? When you read the book, you will see, I hope it's still in there. Huh? The foreword. Your foreword is still there?
No, it's not there.
All right.
It's not there, no.
All right. Well, it's all the more. Our brother has been through this. Let me just read it to you. In September 2003, the book demanded to be written. But soon after setting out the framework for the chapters, I collapsed with a brain hemorrhage in November 2003. To wake up 2 weeks later in King's College Hospital, not knowing who I was, where I was, or why I was there, what happened to me, or how it happened. Following that dream-like, and it don't sound like dream, it sounds like nightmare. Following that nightmare state, I was transferred back to Lewisham Hospital, where I was told I was in a ward for stroke victims. I did not understand what I was being told, nor could I remember where I lived, walk straight, or keep my balance without the aid of a Zimmer frame. I left hospital in mid-December 2003, accompanied by numbness and weakness on my left side, and walked with a limp, etc. Very few people come back from that. Very few people come back with that, with intellectual, let alone surviving and being able to look after yourself, with the intellectual capacity to continue a project like this and to bring it to fruition. Struggling to recover from that takes enormous emotional and physical and intellectual energy, right? So when I say that this book is a multiple triumph, it was important that I read you what the brother had overcome. When I've gone to the state attack on them yet, you know, what the brother had overcome with something that nature, or the deformed state of affairs that we now call nature after 200 years of white assault on the planet. Right? They've been assaulting it for longer than that, you know. But in the last 200 years, they're since the Industrial Revolution, a peculiar and deadly type of assault on the planet. They themselves are beginning to say, last week some researcher was saying that cancer is a product of now, that they've been looking at skeletons and dead bodies, including mummies, and there's next to no evidence of anything like cancer in them. They went all the way back to Egypt, right? It's a new thing, a result of what the people who run the planet for 400 years and have assaulted it industrially for something like 200 years have done to it and us, right? So Chris's illness is not natural illness in that sense, right? It's actually part of what we're having to struggle against, the effects of what the whole planet and us have been through. So it's a physical triumph that he overcame that. Now, it's also an emotional and intellectual triumph. It takes something that somebody once called, and I love the phrase, it takes intellectual elbow grease to write a full-length book such as this, right? Sitting down at it and staying with it and bringing it from beginning to end is not easy. I still haven't managed it, even though I passed myself for the big-time intellectual. I've written enough things, but there is no full-length book in my. It's very difficult to do, right? So again, we're to honor the brother for the achievement. Right? Now, it's also, and this is very important, a political triumph, and I do not say that lightly. Winston True is a political activist. Part of the story that he tells in the book involves him and two other brothers being pounced on that night in May 1973 or 72. 72, being pounced on by the police. The police didn't think they were pickpockets. They knew they weren't. The police were there in a squad that was there not to pick up pickpockets, but to pick up black men and declare them pickpockets. Right? The book tells us that in the clearest terms. Yes. There's no thing about the police believing, right? They knew that they weren't. And importantly, story that is told in the book is that these brothers were coming back from a political meeting. It's important. They were coming back from a meeting that was concerned to plan the defense of another brother who'd been charged by the state for extraordinary activities arising from an article that he'd written in one of our newspapers called Grassroots, which they said involved all kinds of things that, you know, explosives and terror, and there's the early stages when they were just beginning to talk about that. Brother Tony Suarez, who was actually Indian, Goanese, rather than African, but he was in the Black Liberation Front, and he'd written the article. They had come for him, and the movement, which these brothers were part of, were organizing his defense. That is where they were coming from when they got off the train that night in Oval.